start with a new album?
Why not?
Okay. So it is called Manticore and the Horrors. It is coming out for Halloween, as usual. So we must say that this is your 10th album. For some bands, it is the number 10 is symbolic. Is it sort of a report for you? Is it symbolic or not?
I think every album has been symbolic in one way or another.
Yeah.
Some might argue that it actually isn't our 10th album because some people count like Bittersweets or
Vampire.
Vampire, or Cradle to Enslave, or indeed Midnight in the Labyrinth. You know, some misguided journalists actually thought that because Midnight in the Labyrinth was something that we created for our fans, and it was never intended to be released as late as it was. It was just we worked on it between other projects, and the reason it came out this year was because we had a space, because we were obviously writing for this record. So bearing in mind that people have misconstrued and count this and that and whatever and lied bait for the Dead as an album, and you know, I've actually forgotten that it's our 10th album. But every album's as important as, you know,
I think so.
Every album is important. Every album has a flavour and a colour, and thank you. It's about this time of the day. I enjoy a nice cold Heineken.
Okay.
Sorry, bit of product placement.
No problem. So, the Manticore, which is a beast that eats man, is the symbolic muse of your new album. What is behind this mythological figure for you?
When we were writing, the song just presented itself as being like a title track. I don't know why. It was when we did Dusk in Her Embrace, before we even titled the song or knew what was going on the album. I just knew that was the main song. I don't know why, and I don't even know why to this day, but I'd spent a lot of time in India, and one of the aspects of the Manticore was during the British Empire's occupation of the Indian provinces, and obviously a lot of the Indian population, the Asiatic population, weren't that keen on being ruled, and they saw this, what was regarded then as the lion rampant, which is the British Empire. They saw it as more a manticore, as a poisonous beast than a good thing. So I used aspects of that, and that's why it has that song in itself as sitar and other sort of Indian-inspired instrumentation. But it's metaphorical for. We see her as a kind of death goddess. You know, there's lots of different variations in the Manticore. Some say that she's a shapeshifter, others that it's a male face or a female countenance. Some say that it's got, you know, furry feet and big wings. There's all different kinds of depictions. But it seemed apt that if you consider the album as a collection of short stories or songs that are vaguely related to one another rather than being a full-blown concept. Hence the title, The Manticore and Other Horrors. Much like you would have Edgar Allan Poe, The Raven and Other Stories.
Okay. And for you, the Manticore is a feminine figure, or it could be feminine or masculine?
Well, no, I prefer feminine.
Yeah.
You know, I like girls, I don't like men, I like girls.
Okay, because in the discography of Cradle of Filth, the woman is very important. For me, I see it as a symbol of cruelty and power. What is the difference between the Manticore and, for example, Lilith, Elizabeth Bathory, and all the women that
I think they all share the same initial makeup. You know, the fact that I'm not talking about makeup. I'm talking about essence. That they are powerful archetypes, goddess figures, in direct competition almost to God. But God is always associated with a male imagery, and aversion, perversion, but there's a nurturing there, and also very closely aligned to that of Mother Nature. So they're destructive, and at the same time they're also a metaphor for creation and rebirth. And if you look at it very bluntly, you know, it's a female archetype is a better thing to look upon, a more beautiful thing to look upon.
I think so.
Than, you know, a hairy man.
Okay, and I would like to ask you, maybe it's a question too open, but why in the discography of Filth there is this obsession of women for you? How do you explain that?
Well, I think like I've just explained it there. I just find that archetype from Lilith. I mean, okay, we address Lilith as a whole concept record only recently, but if you go back all the way to our demos, to the Prince of Evil Made Flesh, Lilith has been a strong character. If it's not Lilith, it's Hecate. If it's not Hecate, it's Cybele. If it's, you know, every religion has had its feminine aspect in direct relation to the male counterpart, and both interact with each other. So I just see here as a metaphor and an archetype of the left-hand path, and it is something that I can relate to more than that of sort of the normal morality, which is to represent a godhead as a male entity. You know, if it's not Buddha or Krishna or Christ or Muhammad. I guess always had a little bit of anarchy and you know, if somebody gives you a bit of paper, I want to write the other way type of, you know, a bit anti-establishment. It's a bit about rebellion, I guess. Okay.
It is an interesting view. Okay. Talking about the new album, with which album it is linked in your past for you?
Well, it stands on its own, but the record company have, in their biography, linked it to Midian because, I mean, some people listened to it and they went, I can see why. Perhaps not so much musically, but more the fact that it is like an album that's orbited, a central theme that's orbited by loads of little satellites. Like each song is like a little story, and because of that, I agree with him to some respect, in some respect. But I also think this album is, or could be, likened to like the early days of Principle, just because of the nature of some of the riffing, some of the structures.
It is very fresh and new. Okay. On the promo pics for the new album, you appear as 3 persons, you, Paul, and Martus. The album is built by only 3 people?
It was, yes, that's right. It was written by 3 people. Although we still have James and Caroline, but we do have a new bass player, and the bass player did play on the album.
Daniel Firth?
DANI FILTH, his name is, yes, Daniel Firth. We changed it to, his real name's Daniel. He calls himself Danny, but to avoid confusion. I have another friend called Danny Finch, and we were thinking about just starting a band called the 3 Dannys.
It's an idea.
I know, it's just, I probably have to change my name.
No.
To Danielle or something. The core structure of this album was 3 people, and Marthas does the orchestration on the album as well.
It's new.
But you know, there were elements of the album that we all contributed to, structure-wise, and with sort of sound effects and ideology and ideas, and you know, so henceforth why we decided on this particular record just to have 3 of us.
Okay, I understand. And Daniel Firth, was he a long-time fan of the band before entering the field?
Well, I don't know if he was a major fan of the band. He does like the band, but he's in a band called Man Must Die, and he's also, which I was quite pleased about, in a Misfits cover band called Devil Rock. And the reason for him being invited to play on the album was because the producer, Scott Atkins, had worked with his band before, and he said, I know this bass player whose style is very reminiscent of Dave's. Now, Dave hadn't written for the band for about 3 or 4 albums. He's more like a session musician, and with that in mind, whilst we were writing the album, he had an offer from Prong, the band Prong, to go and do an American tour with them, or European tour at first. and that subsequently was about this long, and about this stage through that tour we were in the studio, so it was a case of quickly let's find someone else to play it.
Okay. And why Dave Pybus left the band?
Well, for that reason, really, because he was, it was just it was kind
Okay.
of just drifting apart. It's totally cool between us. There's no, you know, no sacking, no leaving, no. It was just, you know, because he's more session than a proper member. Although he has been with the band for quite a long while. He had his own, you know, he started gardening like as a business, and he was a DJ, and he was playing for other bands. So with that in mind, and him going to play for Prong, it just made sense, really.
Okay.
And I think the injection of new blood is good as well.
And how do you explain that the spirit of Cradle of Filth still remained the same over the years, with all lineup changing?
Because we just have a strong driving force, and I think sometimes the actual, you know, if everybody left the band, the logo would probably grow legs and run off and form its own band somehow. I don't know. It just seems that it carries on regardless of who's in it. But yeah, we've been asked that question quite a few times, because obviously, you know, from album to album, you can pick it up and say, well, that's Cradle of Filth.
Yeah. It's
regardless of, you know, who's in the band.
Yeah, the spirit remains the same.
Yeah,
always. It's a great thing. So you're going to start a European tour.
Yeah.
Which didn't stop in Paris, I think. No.
It's the problem with this tour. Well, there's only one date in England as well. Yeah, there's 4 in Spain. In Spain. There's 2 in Finland. There's 1 in Belarus, the Ukraine. 2 in Poland. It's a package. A promoter put a package together with Godseed and Rotting Christ primarily, and it's just the way it's turned out. But what it does mean is that next year we'll be able to come back and do a second European tour.
Okay, great.
Because there's lots of places we want to play. You know, aside from Paris, you know, Toulouse, Strasbourg, Marseille, Clermont-Ferrand, Lille. You know, places Toulouse. Places that we played before.
It's going to be great.
That we want to go back to, yeah.
Okay.
And also England as well. We want to do more than just London.
Yeah.
Because people, much like when we play, if we're going to play somewhere else in France.
Montpellier.
Montpellier, yeah. If we, you know, people from Paris are going to find it difficult to get there and then get back home on the train, which is exactly as it stands in England, with people getting from Manchester or somewhere like that down to London and home again. So I think it's very important. I mean, we were in Brussels on Monday and somebody was saying, well, why aren't you playing your ancient Belgique? And we're like, we don't know. You know, we're playing somewhere like 80 kilometres away. So it will give us opportunity to make a second tour next year.
So there's no problem with Paris?
No, God, no.
Okay.
Aside from the fact that the Élysée Montmartre burned down.
Now it's in the past, so there is each. I follow you since the Cruelty and the Beast tour, and each time there is a European tour. Yeah. But for Darkly Darkly vice versa, there wasn't any European tour.
Well, we started this album quite. You know, there was quite a short shelf life. We actually went out and played as much as we normally do. We did a full South American tour. We did a massive North American tour. Canada, obviously. We went to India. We did a big, like 2-week tour. Russia. So we played a lot in support of that album. And we did a load of summer festivals in Europe last year as well, which kind of counteracts doing another tour. I don't know why, but it's just the way it is. So henceforth, by this album, we're going to, tour it extensively. There was no other reason other than that. Because we did the summer festivals, it meant we couldn't tour Europe, and we thought, well, let's just get on with another album.
Okay.
We had ideas brewing, and it was really that's where it went from.
Okay. And for the next European tour, is there going to be surprises in the set lists? Old songs that came out again?
Yes. me and Marthas were talking about that. We were saying that we want to sort of mix it up a bit, put some old tracks that maybe we haven't done recently into the set. Play like four, maybe 5 tracks from this album. When we get back to England, we were shooting a video of The Frost on a Pillow on Saturday.
Okay.
When we come back from Berlin for 2 days, and then our attention will be, after finishing the press and whatever, we'll turn towards working out what we're going to do for the live show, because we've got plans. You know, we're going to shake things up a bit, a little bit more in the way of presentation and ideas, projections, film, props, costume. You know.
About Midnight in the Labyrinth, I was very surprised by its content, because I was expecting an entire orchestra like you did on Damnation the Day.
Yeah.
But you choose a more minimalistic approach.
Yeah.
Why such a choice?
Well, it would have cost an absolute fortune. I mean, when we... sorry, that wasn't me farting, it was this chair, honestly. There you go. That was me, it was my rusty leg.
Okay.
When we did Damnation in a Day, and that was before, you know, Dimmu and Moonspell, and although we love those guys, and a lot of other bands had decided to use orchestras, and we had 101 people. We went to Budapest and recorded with their film and TV orchestra, and it was very, very expensive. So to undertake a project of this size and in the short amounts of time that we were able to work on it would have just been ludicrous. At one point we were setting it all to black and white film footage that had come back to the public domain, but even that became an absolute nightmare, because in some countries you can use it, in some countries you can't. So in the end we decided just to, you know, fan only. It's one of those things a band want to get out of their system, much like the massive effort we put into the Gospel of Filth, or when we did Cradle of Fear. It's just one of those things where we want to dabble in another genre.
So there's no option for seeing the band one day on stage with a complete orchestra? It is my biggest dream.
It's never been ruled out, and the last surviving member of the Bathory family, a guy called Dennis Bathory Kitch, who lives in Canada, is trying to, or has been trying, because he's written an opera about Elizabeth Bathory. He's trying to get us to do it like a themed thing at one of her castles, with him doing the opera and us playing Cruelty of the Beast. And he's gone to, I mean, because he is the last surviving member of her family, and he's has gone to the Czech Republic, you know, tourist board, and, you know, is seeking permission to do it. So, you know, we're like, well, if it happens, it'll be great.
It's one of my biggest dreams, I must say. So one day I hope it's gonna happen.
Cool.
Yeah. Talking about critics.
Cricket.
Critics. Critics.
Yeah.
The band has always attracted very extreme views, idealized from one side, hated on the other. How do you explain that? Is it because of your provocative attitude sometimes, or is it a matter of success?
No, I think we just we don't get out of our way too much to be provocative. It's just sometimes you get out of bed the wrong side of the proverbial grave, you know, and feel like being a bit untoward and a bit, like you say, provocative. And other times, you know, I mean, you couldn't, for example, pick a copy of Dusk in Embrace and say, wow, look at all this beautiful artwork, you know, that's provocative. You know, there's a romanticism inherent in the band as well. I just think there's two sides to every coin, and sometimes, you know, that's how we feel, and sometimes, you know, I mean, Nymphetamine, the difference between Nymphetamine and the track Gilded Cunt, for example, is a perfect example.
Yeah. So you don't care about critics, in fact?
Not anymore. No, I've learned over the course of, you know, 10 albums and countless other releases and being in the public eye, and there's just too many people to please, and I'd rather please our fans and fuck off all the people who, you know, are detracting. And it's just a waste of energy to even give them the time of day. In fact, it's quite, to know that we're hated and loved in equal measures, it's quite something.
Yeah. Let's go back a little in the past. After Dusk and Embrace being published, you've talked in the media making a vampiric movie around the album. Is it something that you have still in
It
your
is,
head,
and one of my best friends is the grandson of Douglas Fairbanks Jr., who was one of the guys who practically founded Hollywood.
Okay.
And he's recently got the rights now to carry on the family's name, and he's got a film company, strangely enough, called Fairbanks Productions, and he has 3 films in production. They're not low budget. He's got a couple of horror ones. One's called Decay, one's called Kill. I can't remember. The name escapes me. And then there's another one that's more of like Ivanhoe or something like that, like an historical adaptation. Sorry, I was trying to remember the name of the other film. I can't. So there may be some cross-collateralization with him in the future. You know, we might do something with him, might write some. I just haven't broached it with him yet. You know, he's a good friend. I don't want to just say, "Oh, great," you know, you can help us out now. But there was always the talk of doing a second Cradle of Fear, but the first movie was all done on deferred payment, which meant essentially we got people that were working on like Saving Private Ryan and stuff like that in between them working on other movies. That we drafted them in. They were friends and acquaintances, and they all worked for free but got paid once the movie made money, which they did. But it's something that wouldn't be able to be replicated again, and it would, you know, even to do a cheap movie, you need to raise sort of capital of at least $2 or $3 million, you know, at least. That would be for a cheap movie.
So it's very complicated.
It's very, very complicated, and I suppose it could happen if we gave up the band for a year and just concentrated on that. But it's out of the question, really.
Okay. Dusk and Embrace. There are some bands that play entire albums on stage, like for example Paradise Lost with Broken in Times. Is it something that you will like to do with? If it came
about, yeah, I think so. That would be cool. The opportunity just hasn't arisen to do it. I mean, if somebody wanted us to do it and were willing to put us on somewhere, but like you say, it has become a bit of a trend. I mean, Monster Magnet are doing it at the moment with Spine of God, and Maiden did it with Matter of Life and Death, and that bored me shitless. So I was waiting for them to play the decent songs. Yeah, I mean, it's a possibility, yeah.
Okay. Do you have still unfulfilled wishes as a band?
With a movie type of thing would be good, obviously. And, yeah, doing something orchestral-wise, you know, on stage would be great. We've always wanted to do almost like a Black Mass where people... some elite people, you know, just a few hundred people of our choosing, or competition winners, were taken by train. They never knew where they were going, and it would be set, you know, it would be somewhere quite remarkable, like Cornwall or something, like something Druidic or you know, something with a real pagan atmosphere, and it would, you know, torches and a big feast and something like that. Something quite Hammer horror. We've always wanted to do.
It's an excellent idea.
It would be brilliant.
Yeah.
Like people would meet at a certain place, and a train would be hired, and you know, it'd be really cool.
I think so. Okay. So Caroline Campbell is still in the band?
Caroline?
Yeah.
Yes, she is. Yeah.
She impresses me on stage with the singing and the keys too.
She's actually a bass player.
She's a bass player?
She is a bass player.
Okay.
That's her first job.
Okay.
And she plays with She plays with the guy from Strangle. She also sings with occasionally with Devin Townsend as well.
Okay. She's a very good singer too.
Yeah, she's very
I
good.
think so. With an Infinity track, she's very, very, very good.
Yeah.
I think so. And she's gonna enter the writing process in the future, maybe, or
Maybe.
or no?
Yeah, maybe. The reason she wasn't involved in this writing process is because she has other, like I say, projects.
Okay.
And we began writing, and she was out on tour with various other people. But yeah, I mean, we'll see her on Saturday because, like I say, we're shooting a video for Frost on a Pillow. And obviously she's going to be doing TV and the tour with us and America, So James, Daniel and Caroline are more like session musicians, really. They're part of the family, but, they all have their own bands and what have you.
Okay. Do you remember?
And it'd be rude actually to ask them to drop everything that they hold dear to be part of this band. So it works both ways.
Okay. Do you remember a show that you did last year on the east of France? It was a very complicated show with problems of sound. I remember.
Where was it, sorry?
In the east of France. The name was Les Arseniques. It was a very complicated show with technicians that were incompetent. I was there, so there were some problems with your voice.
Yeah,
you were very, very angry, and us too.
Yeah, there was. I didn't have any. Usually have an in-ear piece, and it was a total disaster because none of our crew could do the show, and I said, let's not do the show. We've got none of our crew. No one knows what they're doing. And we turned up, and the people that were supposed to be doing it from other bands didn't show up to do it. And the guys had no idea. I couldn't hear myself for any of the gig, not once. It was just a complete disaster. Yeah. And I was very, very angry with just the fact that we did it when they'd already said, look. I don't think this is a good idea. But I was talked into it by management and by a record company, and after that I said that if this ever happens again, we'll find another record company and we'll find we were very cross about it.
It was a real sabotage for me by the technicians.
Yeah, well, it was just the whole thing was a complete mess from start to finish. Yeah. But it won't happen again because we've got a very strong crew, and we shouldn't have been doing that show anyway because it was just added on at a very last minute. And at that point, all our crew were busy doing other things, because they work for us, but then, when we stop working, they need to keep working at what they do, so they go on tour with like Opeth, or they go on tour with the Kuna Coil, So, but fortunately, we've got the majority of the crew back, and we've got a very, very strong crew and a strong work ethic. So that sort of thing can never happen again because we have now a secondary crew as well. So if needs be, we could call upon them.
Okay. Do you feel close to the British scene that has a birth on the 90s? Paradise Lost, My Dying Bride, and Ephemeral?
We did at the time, yeah. We were very close. That's the whole reason why we went to record at Academy Studios in Dewsbury, was because we loved Gothic by Paradise Lost, I still love that album to this day, it's great. And, we were very good friends with Anathema, often when we toured with Emperor, we all stayed round Darren from Anathema's house. Done it several times, gone up and stayed with them, and he's the old singer, by the way. That was really the scene that we emerged from. And I remember at the time there was a thing called the Day of Death, which was this show, and it was MDB, Anathema, us, Chorus of Ruin, and it was basically the whole sort of British underground. Yeah. And that's where it emerged from.
Yeah. And I think that your Cradle is more close to this scene, this Doom Death scene, than for example, black metal or Norwegian black metal?
Well, it's true, but I don't know if you're aware that I am in the middle of doing a side project.
Yeah, Temple of the Black Moon.
So I've been to Norway on various occasions and good friends with people over there, like Immortal and formerly Gorgoroth, but Godseed and Torka and obviously Ishan and all these other people. So we work close also to Emperor back in the day and bands like Necromantia. We've toured with Moonspell, like God knows how many times they've supported us. So we're close with them. But I mean, they're not British. There's never been much of a British black metal scene. We've always been isolated, and I think that's what gave a lot of people back in the day the ammunition to sort of attack us verbally and saying, "Oh, you're not a true black metal band," or whatever, because we were divided from them by a track to war called the English, the English Channel.
For me, it's not black metal. It's too complex to be black metal. There's too many things in your music to call it black metal. For me. I've got two last questions. What is the most stupid things you've heard about the Filth since the beginning?
Well, there was, believe it or not, this rumour going around that there was a gay video, of the band, and it was quite it was quite worrying really, because people claimed to have seen it, and I was like, well, one night were we all drugged and did somebody attack us or what? No, there's been some ridiculous rumours, that I died, that I'm a drug addict, that I'm actually a woman, that I was born in that I was actually black, or I was Jewish, just really silly things that people say.
One thing very stupid is the political content, which isn't in the Filth.
No.
This is so stupid.
Yeah.
And what is the best compliment you've heard about the Filth?
I think the best compliment really is when people just don't describe us as anything and just refer, say, "Oh, that's Cradle of Filth." Like people say, "That's Iron Maiden." They don't say, "Oh, it's that new wave of British heavy metal band called Iron Maiden," or they don't refer to Metallica as that East Bay, Francisco Bay thrash band who are now, a stadium rock act. They just say it's Metallica, you know who they are. So a few people have referred to us as that, and that is the ultimate compliment, I think. Because it means that you've really sort of got to that stage where you've forged your own identity, irregardless of, of similar bands and similar scenes and genres.
Okay. For me, Cradle makes Cradle only.
Well, I hope so.
So this is the end. I have only one thing to say. Long live the Filth.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Very much.
Cheers, man.
Thank you very much.